and grows to fruition, I wanted to share another video with you. So the first video we saw was our history. This video is really more about what Clinique is and feels like today and where we want to be in the future. All right, so that is our history and where we hope to be in the future. We will have a Q&A at the end. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. So if you have any questions, just put them into the chat or the questions, and we'll get to them at the end. At this point, though, I'm going to hand it over to Nicole, who's going to talk to you a little bit about her job and getting a product to market and what all of that entails. It's a journey that is a lot longer than you might think.
Thanks, John. So just to give you a little background about myself, I started out with the company 26 years ago. I started at R&D as a chemist, and then I transferred over to product development because I just love the whole, developing portion of the process. So to take you through this process, I'm going to give you a little sneak peek on, how this is done, how a product goes from concept to launch. It takes about anywhere from 18 to 20 months to launch a new product from scratch. And one of the first steps to developing a new product is to create a concept brief. This concept brief is basically, what defines the scope of the product. We sit with marketing and we go over the positioning and also any R&D technologies that are needed for claims. It essentially answers the who's, the what's, and the why. Basically, who is the product for? What do we want the product to be, and what are the benefits? And then the why. Why is it needed for the consumer and for the brand portfolio? From this, we then develop an R&D wish list, which gives our chemists a starting point of what we want the product to be so that they can begin formulating. It defines the product benefits, is it with or without SPF, what the finish and texture would be like, how many shades we're going to capture. If it's a foundation, obviously we want it to be something that's very broad, but then when you think about color, lipstick or blush, it can be a little bit smaller of a range. When we then move on to the R&D development, this is kind of where the art and the science combine. This is where we hone in on the vision of the concept. We develop the actual tangible product. So it goes from words to actual submissions. You start to get, formulations from the lab. And the goal is that when you use the product, it should take you back to what you described as the product concept. So, you want to make sure that you stick to that concept because you really are targeting a specific person when you're developing a product and a formula, especially a foundation, especially to consider skin typing, textures. Is it lightweight? Is it full coverage? Things like that are very important as you're building it. At the same time, we're developing a package in parallel, with the formula development, because we have to make sure that the product that we're developing can be dispensed out of the package properly. And also, aesthetically, there's a beauty when you're applying your makeup that you want to make sure that, the package isn't clunky or difficult to use. It all has to be seamless. Once we get to this point, then we get to formula approval. And this is, a really key part, because once we get to a formula that we like, this is what we then use, and it becomes our benchmark. So every time we make this product in the lab, it has to feel like that benchmark, that standard. So we call it a lab standard for a reason. Then we get to, something that's really, really important for the brand, and that's basically all of our formula testing. This takes a very long time. And as John mentioned, if we have just one irritation or one, a little bit of noise in testing, we have to start over. We cannot launch this product. So the development, and our chemists are really amazing, because they're so specific to the brand. They know this brand so well that they pretty much know how to build a Clinique formula. And I have to say, like, working in Clinique, it's really, really difficult. You have to be very, very specific. And like John said, there's no fragrances, even natural ingredients that are in formulation. They have a smell. So something like chamomile that has a smell, we can't use it because we're fragrance free. So just a little side note on that, because it's really important to understand that just because something is natural and it has a fragrance, it can be an irritant. So we make sure that we don't use it. So with our formula testing, there's stability testing, which is really done by R&D. And this basically ensures that the product remains the same throughout its shelf life and through consumer usage. So it has to stay the way that it was built from start to finish. Then there's clinical testing. This ensures that all of our claims are substantiated. So for instance, if you're going to say that a product is an 8-hour oil controlling formula, it means that the product has been tested for sebum or surface oils beyond 8 hours. It can only claim 8 hours if it passes that 8-hour mark. You cannot have an 8-hour claim if you're 7.5 hours. It has to be 8. So then we move on to safety testing. This is probably the most important portion of testing for the brand, and actually for the consumer as well, for you. It's what we do at Clinique. It's what we're very, very specific on. And at Clinique, all of our products are developed free from parabens, phthalates, and fragrance. They're thoroughly vetted through a full suite of testing: allergy testing, ophthalmologist testing, dermatologist testing, and in-use testing to ensure skin safety. Just as John mentioned, the RIPT, repeat initial patch test, it's a very critical test for the brand. And, once we get past that, we know that we have a stellar product. We know that we can move forward. And at that point, that's when we really start to bring in the artistic aspect of it. That's when we have the science and the art that combine. So we can really start to work on the shade range, because now we have a finalized product. So something that I'm very proud of is the work that the brand has started over a decade ago. And as John mentioned, we acknowledge that we had a lot of work to do back then. And we realized that people of color were very, very loyal to skincare, but when it came to makeup, we weren't addressing their needs as far as the shade selection. And at that moment, we decided to put in the work. And our R&D clinical testing team over the years have amassed over 7,000 skin tones from around the world. And I've had the privilege to go to South Africa and India to be part of that data collection for Even Better Foundation. And that's when we blew out our Even Better Foundation to 56 shades. We went sometimes door to door. We actually had like real people that we went to their homes, and we brought a color spectrometer, and we measured their skin to bring it back so that we had real skin tones. It wasn't like we matched a competitive product or a swatch or something like that. We really went and measured skin tones, because at that point we realized if we're going to do this, we're going to bring the science into it, because that's what we do at Clinique. So we definitely wanted to make sure that we captured skin tones. And from that moment, a beautiful marriage partnering high performance skincare products with, benefit-driven benefits was created with makeup that actually had a broad shade range, and it was very inclusive from that point forward. This reinforced the brand's commitment to diversity and inclusion across all of our launches to ensure that everyone at that point can find the shade that they love. The next step in the development process is when we take those shades and we start to pilot them. And pilot batching is basically when you take a small lab batch, which is about like the size of a gallon of milk, and then you move towards a really large size, almost the size of a studio apartment. I mean, you go from 3 kilos to 1,000 kilo batches. And basically it's what I like to compare it to. It's like you have a perfect recipe for cookies, and you bake that, dozen cookie recipe at home, and you decide, I'm going to make this recipe for now a picnic of like thousands of people. You have to know how to take that dozen cookie recipe and scale it up to 1,000. Do you do it in parts, or can you just multiply your batch? And that's really what piloting is. It's basically trying to understand if you can take that recipe and scale it up so that it can be a larger size batch, and you have to be able to reproduce it. So this is an area where, over the course of the years that I've been with the company, this is where you can run into a few snafus. You may think that you are piloting and all of a sudden the batch doesn't work, or you have to, use a different set of equipment. So this is kind of why we do pilots before we get to production, because we want to make sure that we know what we're doing when getting to the scale up. So once we have a successful pilot, you then move on to pre-production batches. And it's basically the same idea of a pilot, but now you're doing what we did with the pilot in the actual manufacturing facility, because you want to make sure that, can I make it on that equipment? Is everything going to work out the same once I change from, this machine to that machine? And normally these batches are done in Belgium or Canada for us, specifically for foundations. So, I've gone to Belgium and Canada quite often because this is where we always tend to work on our foundations. So I have a lot of, miles basically to these countries. And it's interesting because, again, you can have a pilot that you've done at the lab, but then you get to pre-production. And because the equipment changes or they use a different mode of heating, there are tweaks that you have to work out. So this is why I say too that the process takes quite a long time, because we want to make sure that we're not just jumping from one thing to the next. We really want to make sure that we can build a successful product each stage. Once we get a successful pre-production batch, we then move to first production. And this is kind of where, I rejoin again in the process for shading. So we originally would have lab shade matches where we would make standards. And now we get to first production where we're making these standards on a much larger scale. And this is what's basically going to be on the shelf. And at this point, you're basically, everything it should be, at least substantiated as far as your process. And once we're completed, we go through fill trials because we want to make sure that our product can be filled on the machinery that we're filling on, and that performance is also, aesthetically to the right standard. And after that, then we move on to launch. And at launch completion, our job is never really done. We track the product pretty much throughout its whole life. You want to make sure, how it's received at launch. Consumer ratings and reviews are tracked for quite a long time. We also look at long-term possibilities to understand areas like shade expansion, how well it's doing. Maybe we need more shades in this range. Who's buying it? What are they saying about it? What can we do better? And sometimes we need a different finish or a different coverage. So it's interesting because I like to say that, our products are like our children. They grow up, we send them out in the world, but at the end of the day, we can never stop taking care of them. There are times when, a vendor may change a raw material. We have to look at that formula again. It may be something that I've done 20 years ago and we have an issue with it. we have to look at it again. You know, it's always, with product development, there is always that element of you're never really done with a launch. You know, you send it out there and you pray over it and hope that it does well. But at the end of the day, there are always maintenance and things that are being done, ways that we can refresh these products over the course of its life. You know, bringing, you know, new shades in, like I said, that is something that will always be done. And we pay a lot of attention to each and every product that we have, to go back to it, make sure that, you know, we're understanding what's happening with it, refreshing some of the lineup, some of the shades, so that we're always providing the best for our consumer. And I think that's the important thing. We are always striving to continue to make these products new and innovative and relevant. And I think that's, you know, the important part of the process of developing a product. And, you know, at the end of the day, I'm very proud of a lot of the products that I've worked on. And like John said, you know, there's a lot more that we can do in regards to shade, and we are always looking at shade. You know, we say that a new shade is born every day, and I think that that's something that we will always go back to these products and reassess them year after year. So I'll turn it back over to John now.
Thanks, Nicole. So now you can see, this is the kind of stuff that Nicole and I geek out about all the time. She's constantly fascinating me about all of the science that goes into everything that we do. We wanted to bring it coming back around from the product and go back into the skin that we're dealing with for real quick here before we open it up for questions. And when we think about skincare and foundation considerations for the Black consumer, we at Clinique, it's always about what's best for skin. Even if we're talking about an eyeliner, we are always thinking about what's best for skin, and we are always thinking about what's best for all kinds of skin. And when we think about healthy skin, there's some things that we know that are common to all healthy skins. And these are the kinds of things that we think about when we think about getting a healthy looking skin and getting a healthy feeling skin. And that's these 5 things that we're always have in the back of our mind. We always want to have a balance of water and oil so that the skin is comfortable at the surface. You know, you don't want to have oily, greasy feeling skin, but you also don't want to have skin that feels like it's 3 sizes too small for your face. So that's simply about ensuring that we have the right moisturizer for all kinds of different concerns and all kinds of different skins. We need to have even consistent cell turnover for a smooth texture and a radiant looking skin. Everybody wants comfortable, radiant, smooth, firm, and even toned skin. For smooth skin, you gotta have an intact moisture barrier. You gotta have skin that's able to not just accept hydration, but hold on to it more. You need a strong support structure for that smooth, firm skin, and you need a normal production of melanin for an even skin tone. And when we think about, that's very general, and it's all very true. But what we know is there are some things that are very specific about different kinds of skin, different ethnicities, different levels of pigment. When we take a look at Black skin, one of the things that we know is that obviously it has a lot more melanin, which gives you your color. It gives everyone our color, colors your hair, colors your eyes. But in skin, abundant melanin can be a great thing. It is a natural sunblock. It helps to protect the skin from burning very, very well, and even from some aging. The downside of that is that with all of that melanin present in the skin, it's also highly reactive to irritation. So a deeper, richer skin tone, Black skin, for example, if you have a breakout, that's an irritation that happens in the skin. On a skin with a lot less pigment, like mine, if I have a breakout, I have a pimple, it turns red, it goes away, it heals, it's gone. On a deeper, richer skin tone, you have that process, but it isn't gone because the skin and its melanin-rich defense mechanism reacts to that irritation and causes a dark spot. Skin that has more melanin in it is more likely to be unevenly pigmented, so that you're more likely to have discoloration or a halo of one shade or another on the skin. On the plus side, because of the natural sunblock, it's less likely to have lines and wrinkles. Not immune to it by any means, but less likely. And black skin, there used to be a myth that, you know, the darker your skin is, the stronger it is, and the oilier it is. Well, that's just not true. What we know about skin is that there's all kinds of skin for every skin shade. So you can have black skin and be very, very dry. You can have black skin and, as I said, be very, very sensitive. One of the things that we found is that deeper, richer skin tones like black skin actually are more sensitive than lighter skin tones, more sensitive to irritation, free radical damage, et cetera. So when we look at developing formulas for all skins, we have to think about this. And when we think about things like developing products for discoloration or uneven skin tone, we have to think and remember, all right, so somebody who's got a deeper, richer skin tone is more likely to want this product, but they're also somebody who's going to be much more susceptible to irritation. So we have to amp up calming, soothing agents from the standpoint of ensuring that the person who's going to use this product is going to be comfortable using it for the life of the product. So just a couple of the considerations that we think of when we're formulating skincare. And one of the things that we like to say is everything we know about skincare goes into our makeup at Clinique. So Nicole, do you want to talk a little bit about how skincare goes into what you do as foundation? Because, you know, as a consultant, I always thought of foundation as the last step of your skincare. And can you talk a little bit about why that is and what we are doing to ensure that our makeup makes your skin better than it was before you put it on? And I'm going to turn off this PowerPoint now so we can just look at each other and stop looking at the.
Sure. So, you know, like John said, one of the things that we definitely like to, you know, instill in our foundation, especially, you know, as of late, we've taken a lot of the information that we know of skincare, a lot of what we understand about skin, and we've used a lot of it in our makeup formulation. We're not trying to be the same level of efficacy as a skincare product by no means, but at the end of the day, we do know that there is an interesting way to marry your skincare regimen and then a similar type of foundation. So we take a lot of the actives and a lot of the benefits that, you know, are in skincare products, and we add it to our foundation, because it's important that as you're wearing your foundation, you know, we don't want you to just cover up your concerns. We want to address those concerns in both skincare and foundation. So, like John mentioned, with, you know, hyperpigmentation, one of our greatest launches, you know, to date was Even Better Makeup. That was an interesting product when we launched it because, you know, it took a lot of what the skincare equivalent of Even Better was, and it took the ingredients in that and added it to your makeup so that as you're wearing it, at some point, you can have a no makeup day. And that was always something that we spoke about, you know, in the office when we talked about what do we want to get out of this makeup? Is it, you know, just to cover up? You don't want to just cover up your dark spots. You really want them to go away. And that's really what, you know, we wanted to create when we started to develop this. And so that it was a perfect pairing with our skincare products. So now that we've been moving forward, like our acne products, you know, we don't just have, you know, something that's great to cover up your acne. It has activity in it. We want to make sure that we add these ingredients that actually help to benefit your skin concerns, so that we're addressing it in both skincare and foundation.
And it's specific. It's very specific what we put in for the concerns. For example, an Even Better foundation. Yes, it does help your skin look better than it did before you put it on, but it also helps in another way, and that is we couldn't possibly do an even better foundation for skin with discoloration issues without SPF in it.
Right.
Because you have to protect your skin. So that's the other thing, is like making sure that our foundations, A, don't do any harm, B, actually make your skin better, but it also help to protect your skin going forward from any kind of irritation or damage from the sun.
Yeah, and I want to speak on SPF too, because, for people of color, for a long time it was said that we don't need SPF. You absolutely do need SPF. It's very important because, there are irritations that happen, from sun damage. It also helps, minimize the dark spots and the discoloration that you're seeing because you're protecting your skin with an SPF. So as you're trying to heal your skin, using these skincare products, adding an SPF to the regimen actually assists in that process. So it's really important that, you have SPF, whether it's in your foundation or your skincare or both, but it is important to have SPF in your product.
So that are the considerations that we have when we think about developing products for our clients, as we call them. We don't think of them as customers, we think of them as clients. And a little bit about our brand as our history and what we think and what we believe. At this point, I'm looking, I don't see any questions yet in the Q&A feature or in the chat, but if anybody has any questions, go ahead and put those in there. And Nicole and I will try to answer them.
Hi, it's Andrew John. One question we got was for people with sensitive skin, what products you recommend? And also, my personal question, did you find any skin trends during the pandemic with the use of the constant wearing a mask and, just want to see if there was any caveats in your routine? Sure.
Nicole, do you want to do masks and I'll do sensitivity or? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the things that we've heard about, it's termed maskne now, wearing a mask and just the inclusivity, the closeness to your skin, the humidity from breathing. That's something that, we've seen and heard a lot about, and some people are getting like breakouts because of it. And that leads us back to, 3-step and having the right skincare regimen and, clarifying the skin, because I think it's even more important now in this age that we're in, wearing masks and just being very conscious about, it's basically, you're putting a film over your skin. So it's maybe not allowing your skin to breathe as much. So it's really important after you come in that you, cleanse your skin and that you exfoliate and that you clarify so that you can, release a lot of the sebum from the pores. One of the things that we also, when we develop our foundations, it's really important for us to get a sweat and humidity claim. And it's something that we work on, especially for oilier skin, but I think in general, it's just becoming so important with foundations. And it's a very specific test where, women are basically in a chamber and they make sure that the product is, it holds up to a certain humidity level so that it wears on the skin and you're still getting that breathability. So it is something that we have seen, but it's something that we've formulated for quite some time prior to mask wearing.
Right.
It's just something that I think, is exacerbated now, but I think the use of, the 3-step plus a foundation that's really good for sweat and humidity is an important thing to add to the regimen.
Absolutely. And just to add a couple things to that is that, one of the things that I've read and heard from my dermatologist, my personal dermatologist, is throw your mask away every day. Do not wear the same mask twice. You're breathing in, the air that's getting in is behind there. Anything that came with it is trapped in there with you. So the last thing you want to do is put a dirty mask on a clean skin. But other than that, it really is, like Nicole said, it's about taking care of your skin each and every day. And I must confess to some, working from home now for a long time, there are days where I don't do my skincare because I'm lazy. And it's about maintaining that regular regime of just basic, simple skincare. That's what's going to keep your skin healthy through weird environments like this. And as far as the general, what would we recommend for sensitive skin? Well, Clinique products, of course. Not to be facetious, but a little bit facetious. what you want is a product that's not going to contain things that are irritating to your skin. Products from a brand like Clinique or a brand who is aware of that and takes care to exclude known irritants is going to be the first thing. You're going to want to look for products that are tested for sensitive skin and specifically designed for that. And then at the end of the day, it's about making sure that you are aware of what your skin, what it has reacted to in the past, and staying away from that stuff. But also going for personal advice at either a counter or even online to learn about what the product has in it. Nowadays, we are so lucky, all of the ingredients of every product are listed on every single product page. So if there's something specific that's a problem for you, you know where to look for it. But you also can be very safe in knowing that a brand like Clinique is always looking for ensuring that our products can go on any skin. If there is any kind of product that has anything that would be, again, counter to sensitive skin, we make sure that the usage is very specific and clear for a smaller subset of people. I hope that answers your question, yeah.
Yep. We got some questions coming in. So from Tony, he said, can you speak about the changing skincare routines for seasons, especially moisturizers? And is something we should do?
Yeah, there's all kinds of rules when it comes to skincare that you hear all the time. Oh, it's winter, you should have more moisture. Only if you're drier. We do recommend that you take a look at your skin and a real clear look at your skin when the seasons do change, because as a general rule, when it is warmer, you tend to not be as dry, simply because there's more humidity in the air, your skin is less likely to lose irritation, you're more likely to be outside versus inside in a heated environment, which can dry your skin out. So yes, you should always look at your skincare on a seasonal basis. And one thing that I always ask my client, if they ask me the question, should I change my moisture? I'm like, do you feel drier right now? And if the answer is yes, then yeah, absolutely, we should boost your moisture, whether it's using a little bit more of what you have or using something that's a little bit more emollient, a little bit more hydrating for that time of year that you're facing. But yeah, you should always just kind of reassess your skin at least every 6 months to see what's going on.
Okay. Our next question is from Ms. Jacqueline Fenton. Since the pandemic, the lower half of my face is lighter. Would you recommend to even out the appearance for sensitive skin?
Couple things, Jacqueline. I'm going to make sure that you're wearing sunblock on the rest of your face, because that's probably part of the issue is you're blocking sun from this part of your face. And you don't have to be at the beach to get UV exposure. Like my dermatologist likes to say, if you can see yourself in the mirror, you're getting UV exposure. So if you're sensitive to it, definitely wear a sunblock, especially, even if you're sitting inside, it's good to have something with a sunblock on your face to protect from that. Because even though it may not be burning or that sort of thing, without the exposure in this part, you're more likely to have 2 different shades. As far as equalizing that, first of all, it's, protect the skin so it's calm, so it's comfortable. We do have products that are specifically for uneven skin tone in our Even Better line. So if wearing sunblock for a while doesn't equalize it, then it's probably a good time to then investigate something that's a little bit more active to help regulate the melanin production across the skin. And it also helps to boost the exfoliation so that the skin that has become darker will exfoliate at a very healthy, natural rate. And then you can get back to more of an equal state. But the entire time that you're trying to get your skin equalized, you must protect it from SPF. Don't protect it from SPF. Protect it from sun exposure. Sorry.
Cool. The next question, thanks, Jacqueline. Next question is, how do you foresee tech being utilized in product development down the line in consumers, homes, retail, space, online, and etc.?
Wow, it's loaded.
Yeah.
Do you want to start with product development?
Yeah, I'll take this one. We are actually in the process of doing a lot of this now. I mean, finding your shade online. People aren't going to the stores as much anymore, but they're still shopping. So there's a lot of, apps that help you to find your right foundation, to help you try on lipsticks and eyeshadow and things like that. And, we are moving in that direction because we see that that's the direction that the client really wants. They want to have options. They want to be able to, maybe not play in store with shade, but they want to play with shade. And I think, with a lot of the technology that we have, we are seeing that it's becoming very important for people to be able to see what they look like in a specific shade. And sometimes it's a little bit easier to do it at home, because you may not try on a green in store or bright pink or a bright red in store, but you might want to do that at home. So there are a lot of, things that we're doing now with trying on shades so that you can have that ability to play, and maybe that's a little bit safer. So we have seen it, and we definitely are looking at blowing this out for the brand even further. So we are using a lot of it now.
Yeah, and it's not just color. We also are looking at it for skincare. I mentioned in our history bit there, where we have what we call clinical reality, which actually takes a very, very detailed picture of the skin and analyzes it for concerns that range from dark spots and discoloration to fatigue to lines and wrinkles. And we're even getting to a place where we are able to very accurately not only assess what's going on with your skin, but then also help you to understand what the product promise is going to look like on your skin. So we can help you visualize, you buy a product that says 24% reduction in lines and wrinkles. What does that mean? What does that look like? Well, now we can show you so that you can say, this is what I should be expecting. And then it helps so much for clients who, A, want to see what it's going to look like, B, to have very accurate and reality-based expectations. 24% is 24%. It's a huge reduction from a clinical standpoint, but you need to know what it's going to look like so you know what to expect as you're using the product. So more and more that will be coming in. There's a lot of augmented reality that people are looking at, apps for home, apps for in the store. None of this replaces the consultant at the counter, but it is an extra tool for those consultants to use when interacting with clients to get the best, not only assessment, but also recommendation and confidence.
Thank you so much. And we have one last question.
Okay.
And okay, we have two more questions. So I've been no problem. I've been trying to achieve dewy looking skin. I know what that means. Although skin looks hydrated, it isn't dewy yet. Any tips? I use Clinique Moisture Surge at night.
Okay. Well, I'll start from a skin standpoint. Use Moisture Surge during the day too. Most skincare products are designed for day and night use. So, and I will admit to being lazy sometimes and only doing one time or no times of my skincare, but for really the best benefit, and especially something like a dewy look, something that's close to the surface of the skin, you need to make sure that you're doing your treatment twice a day. The moisturizer is a huge piece of that because it gives the skin that plump, hydrated look to it. You also want to make sure that the skin's exfoliated. If you've got a buildup of dead skin on the surface of the face, it's never going to look dewy because dead skin just is dull. So before you put your moisturizer on, exfoliation, we would recommend clarifying lotion in the appropriate strength for your skin type. But that's really going to go a long way from a skincare standpoint. From a makeup standpoint, it could be about a lot of things. What would you suggest, Nicole?
Yeah, I think, even we can use, different highlighters, something that can actually work as you're going through your exfoliation stage with your skincare. So, highlighting in certain areas that, collect light. So usually, it's the forehead and the top of your cheekbones, your nose, like things like that you can enhance the dewiness through makeup. But definitely, to John's point, with exfoliation and cellular turnover, you are going to, over time, create that perfect canvas that your skin is smoother and therefore dewier, and you'll see that radiance come through.
And a little tip, since you do have the Moisture Surge, once you get your makeup done in the morning, if you want a little bit extra dewiness, just take a little bit of your moisture surge in your hand, get a really thin amount, and just press it on. And your skin will feel great. Your makeup will look like it's fresh, and it also give you a little bit extra dew while you're getting your skin in shape.
Yep.
Okay,
More
thank you.
information than you wanted.
And one last question from Jacqueline. During the production cycle, how do you ensure that the vendor is using the best raw material? And are there instances wherein a raw material is substituted?
So substitutions, no. I mean, we have our team at R&D, you know, they vet out our ingredients and they're tested repeatedly before we're even able to put them in a batch. So there's a lot of QA checks that an ingredient has to go through continuously. It's not just the first time that it comes in, it's constantly being checked. So if we get a new lot of that material, that is also checked as well. And if it goes into, let's say, you know, if it goes into our R&D and there's a problem, it is completely, you know, rejected. So we definitely have a lot of checks and balances that we have at the QA level on ingredients and also on our products as well. So nothing goes out until it's QA checked.
And there have been times where we've had to change an ingredient or replace something that either nobody makes it anymore, or you know, we learned something about it. We was like, oh, we don't want that in our stuff anymore. So, but if you would do that, I think I'm correct, Nicole. It's like creating a new product. You have to start over, and and sometimes you have to go through all the testing again. Exactly.
Right? And it's usually not because the ingredients, you know, came in, you know, in a unclean way or something like that. It's usually because a vendor, you know, either can't source it anymore or can't supply it. And that's kind of what we were saying before, as far as, you know, we never give up on our children. We're always taking care of them. And if something like that happens, we kind of have to start all over because it is an ingredient that we're replacing. And when we have to do that, we have to go through the process of all of our testing all over again to make sure that that ingredient, one, works within the formula from a processing and an R&D standpoint and a development standpoint, but also the same level of efficacy as the original standard formula. So there are those checks and balances again with that new system. Hope that answers your question. I think there was another one.
Was that it?
I believe so. And just want to once again thank you so much for the presentation. I'd like to thank Nicole and John, giving a moment of their time to not only tell us about the history of Clinique, but how the product is being manufactured and the thought process. I think it's very important that we when we talk about our corporate partners or anything else, that we get the mindset and the thought process of how things are done and how they view their customers, and better yet, their clients. Pick the word of buzzwords I picked up now that you are a client. So it's a different way of looking and viewing and making sure that they have the best interests at heart. And also I love hearing the evolution of your thought process of the client, and really embracing, leaning into meeting them where they are versus vice versa, meeting them where you are. So it really kudos to Clinique, and also it shows a reflection of the Estee Lauder brand. I'd like to say again, thank you for people that participated on the call. This is a journey, like I said before, getting to know Estee Lauder. So there'll be more events like this coming out. Our last one of the year will be with Avita by the Natural Hair Concept on November 17th. We'll have a live demonstration. I'm very excited for that. But more importantly, the opportunity for you to get closer to Estee Lauder and Estee Lauder to get closer to you. And this is the beginning. So I'm looking forward to really understanding how we can best serve each other. So on behalf of the Metro New York chapter of the Black MBAs, I wish you a very happy Wednesday evening. I wish you a very happy, pleasant rest of the week. And I look forward to hearing more from us in the near future. Thank you. Have a very good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.